Let's paint a Japanese street at evening time. I'm using a big spiral bound pad, 50 by 40 centimeters, and a big mop brush. I begin with pure water and then yellow ochre by the side of that. I get thicker with the yellow ochre mix. Then after that I'm going to use purple. It's a mix of phthalo blue and alizarin crimson. And here in the right hand corner I'm going to use some yellow ochre. I should have made this bigger, this bit here, and lighter, because that's going to be a building and I wanted it to be golden colour, but sadly I added too much purple there and darkened it. So the paper has dried now and I'm doing the road. Once again pure water to begin with and then yellow ochre. And then I add burnt sienna, and then below that I'm adding a purple mix of phthalo blue and alizarin crimson. And then I'm going to add more blue to that mix. And just make it darker. Okay, it's dried. Now I'm going to do the buildings. So I begin with something like burnt sienna and alizarin crimson for this big telecommunication mast, and I add water to it and let it just run down. And then I use the same mix for the top of the buildings. So this is where the sunlight is catching this building. And now I'm using a stronger purple mix of alizarin crimson and also phthalo blue and maybe a bit of burnt sienna in there. And then I'm making it even stronger by adding burnt umber. So as we move away from this glowing building, I want to make it darker and more powerful. So I use more burnt umber and phthalo blue. But this part here, I'm going a bit more blue because I'm trying to suggest the building's going away into the distance. And so I'm using more phthalo blue in that area. But as I come down, I make it blacker. And I keep spraying. I'm using a liner brush here now just for details on the tops of the buildings. And at the bottom again, even darker. And then here I'm doing a building on the right hand side, and I've just done the top. Oh, I'm finishing off a bit to that building, darkening it at the bottom. And now I'm going to start suggesting this building on the right. So this, what I'm painting, is very abstract and it's supposed to just suggest things like windows and balconies. But it is very, very abstract. And at the bottom I'm going to do a shop window using a dark mix again, alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, burnt umber. Spray it to keep it wet. Now I'm doing the shadows, and this is a bit more of a purplish mix. It's mostly phthalo blue and alizarin crimson for the shadows. And next I'm going to use a round brush or a bamboo brush to do this signpost, and this is a signpost for a 7-Eleven sign. Now I'm using my liner brush to indicate road marks, like tire marks or the edge of the pavement. keep spraying it. And now I'm just doing a pylon or whatever it's called, and power lines. A utility pole, that's it. And then I'm using a dark mix here just for a fence, and also the sign, the 7-Eleven sign, and I'm using that for this shop on the right hand side. I've let it dry, and now I'm going to paint a cyclist. So I used the same dark mix, phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, burnt umber for his head, and then I use blue, phthalo blue, for his body, and then the same dark mix for his legs in a minute. And at the bottom of his legs I try to get a dry brush effect by wiping my brush on a rag and getting rid of excess water. I'm only partly successful. Then I'm painting the wheels. I tend to paint one half of the wheel and then the other half, or one side of the wheel and then the other side. And then I'm going to do the shadow. The shadow is actually wrong. If you look at where the sun is, the shadow should be slightly to the left, well, a lot more to the left. Yeah, but there you go, next time. And now I've got my liner brush and I've got some titanium white, and I'm doing highlights for cars, and I'm doing car headlights and then windscreens. And I want these cars to look mysterious, like they're disappearing into the huge shadows created by these big buildings. And this is a car going away from us, and the same thing again, adding a highlight and then also making the windscreen dark and light, that combination of dark and light, and then some bright red for the rear lights on the car, and then just soften it a little with some tissue, and then those cars look quite mysterious now, disappearing into the gloom. And then highlight on the figures using titanium white, and then on the edge of this fence as well. So, and then I'm also going to do that with this sign. Actually, this is a mix now of titanium white and a light blue, and I'm not doing any details for this sign because it's just a simple abstract shape that I want. And this will fade even more when it's dried. And then just the edge of the post that's being caught by the sunlight. And then this shop window, just a few light areas where there's the sun's catching it, or there's some papers or posters hanging on the window. And then on this building, the windows catching the light. And then I think finally there's these like concrete blocks, and they're just catching the light. So it looks quite interesting, a nice abstract feature. And then just a highlight on these on this sign. And that's it, the finished painting. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please have a go. Remember, be daring, and at the same time have a lot of fun.